can't handle the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole on We the People Radio. I'm your host, James. I have my co-hosts with me, Nick and Ant. What's going on, fellas?
What's up, everybody?
What's up, James?
Today we have a very special guest, and I'm really excited to bring him on because this is not a rabbit hole that we've gone down, and we've been covering a lot of current events over the past couple weeks. So we figured we'd go do what this show is intended to do and go down a rabbit hole. And this is a rabbit hole that kind of correlates with a lot of things that we've talked about on this show. But I want to introduce the man himself, Dave Weiss, also known as Flat Earth Dave. Welcome to the show, man. We're super excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me. And why does everybody introduce me as a very special guest, right? Because he's a flat earther.
That's exactly. Hey, listen, we've been down. We hear it on our end as well with all the other conspiracies, quote unquote, that we go down. So we're right there with you. But flat Earth probably gets the brunt of all of the jokes.
So I used to do a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, and it was a conspiracy podcast. It was, two truth tellers and a resident skeptic comedian that tried to turn everything into a fart joke. And it went for 3 years. But in the third year, people started sending me, "Hey, Dave, have you looked into flat Earth?" And first I thought it was a joke. But then when they kept posting on our social media, I'd have to ban them from our social media for being so stupid. And then one day, a researcher that I, respect very much, Sophia Smallstorm, she said that we're talking about some crazy deceptions that were going on in the news with some of these bang bang events. And I said, "There's so much deception in this world." And she goes, "Oh, David, it's worse than that." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I think the earth might be flat." And I flipped out. I was like, "All right, what do you got?" And she's "Here, watch these videos." And she sent me Mark Sargent's Clues and another video. And so I watched it and I said, "All right, that's it. I'm going to prove the globe. I'm going to destroy flat Earth, prove the globe, and end this nonsense because it's infecting people's brains." And for 2 weeks, I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep at all. And I literally fell asleep on my computer, woke up, started looking more, and I started doing tests myself. And at the other end, I came out, and I'm going to look, I looked like Nick's going to look by the end of this show.
So yeah, Nick was firing a ton of questions at us all week. Like, what about this? What about that? And I was like, listen, you just
Karnak? I'm gonna be Karnak.
Yeah.
What about Nick's gonna say? What about boats over the horizon? What about seasons? What about sunsets? Right?
What's the point of making the Earth a globe if it was always originally
why does it matter?
Why does it
matter? Yeah, why does it matter? Happy to answer that now, but it's kind of better after I show you that it's not a ball.
Let's
wait till we can get into the reason why, because it's the biggest lie ever. It's so big that people can't even fathom a deception like this, and like, why would they do it? And I'll just give you the short of it. It's about mind control. It's about controlling our minds. It's about not letting us know where we are, who we are, and what we really are. It's about making us think that we're insignificant and that we have no power. And it's literally about taking our power away and causing us to live in fear. Because when you live in fear, fear is the only enemy. So if you live in fear, what's that?
How does a globe make me live in fear?
Yeah, so when you discover the Earth is flat, you discover a lot of other deceptions, like the Cold War wasn't really a Cold War, that the space race never happened, that nuclear bombs aren't what they say they are, that asteroids aren't a danger, that Kim Jong-un is just a retard that stands in front of a green screen and claps.
Yep.
Okay, that none of this stuff that we're supposed to be afraid of is real. So you take all that fear out and you're like, this world is a really nice place. Well, we have flat Earth conferences. And I just thought about this. I just said this for the first time on another show. If I was at a flat Earth conference and let's say I didn't want to bring any credit cards, so I had a wad of $100 bills, big fat wad of $100 bills, and it fell out of my pocket, it would get returned to me. Somebody would pick it up and figure out who lost the money, and they'd bring it back to me. I wouldn't think that anyone at that conference would steal from me. So these are people that have gotten rid of your fear. And when you get rid of your fear, you actually become a better person, because you're not like, I'm in fear. I need to do this. I need to hoard this. I need to do that. I need to think about myself. You're thinking about other people, and it really changes who you are. Even now, there's plenty of good people in this world that would return the money, but all flat earthers become really good people for some reason.
So it's really funny that you bring that up, because I 100% agree with you in the fact that they're trying to instill fear in us. That's what they're doing with the China virus from China. That's what they're doing with literally Russia and North Korea was just fear mongering nonstop. Iran's the same thing. It's all threatening to keep us in a state of fear, and then they can control us. So you're 100% right there. And it's so funny to me that you're going down the path of flat earth, when in my mind, when I was going down these rabbit holes, I've been doing this for a very long time, flat earth was the last thing on my mind. Like I was like, you know what, this what is the different, what difference does it make if the earth is flat or round? Like I didn't think of it in a state of fear, like Nick said.
Yeah, so that, and also, if we get our freedom back, how long can you keep it if you're lost in space and your mind's in a prison and you don't know who you are, where you are, what you are? How long are you going to keep it when the rulers of this world know the truth? They know the magic, for lack of a better word, of this world. They know how strong their thoughts are. I look at it as an analogy between the documentary with Keanu Reeves called The Matrix.
Love
right?
that movie.
So
Talk about it all the time.
At the beginning, Neo is lost. He's lost in the Matrix. His mind is in the Matrix. He doesn't know where he is, who he is, what he is, or what power he has. And he's kind of depressed. It's kind of like the world. Go out there and look at people. They're lost in the Matrix. They don't know where they are. And then at the end of the movie, look at Neo. He took back, he figured out who he is, where he is, what he is, and the power of his own mind. Right. And he became awake and aware, and just a better, more powerful person living, his true creation. And that's what flat earth does for people. It literally gives them their divinity back.
That's a really
those mushrooms too.
Mushrooms too. But,
all right, let's get into some some questions.
So for me, flat earth kind of ties into a lot of things that I've studied with Antarctica and Operation High Jump, and what the Nazis do in Operation Paperclip especially. So for me, I never necessarily believed what we were told, because I know NASA is garbage, total hot garbage. It's created by Wernher von Braun, who was brought over during Operation Paperclip and is a Nazi scientist. So I always had questions about what they were telling me, but I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that the earth was flat. For me, it wasn't something that I really...
You know his gravestone, right? You know about his gravestone.
Okay. It was Psalms, 19?
19:1, right.
19:1. And it's what's the exact quote?
Talks about the God separated the waters from the waters with the firmament, or something like that. So the dome. He talks about the dome covering the earth. The Nazi rocket scientist. Here's the problem with Wernher von Braun, real quick, is the space race was fake. So did they really bring over a Nazi scientist, or is he just another actor from Hollywood playing the part of a friggin' Nazi scientist?
Well, that's a very interesting take. Have you studied Operation Paperclip at all?
I have. I know all about it. But the thing is, that could just be a part of a story. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't change anything, whether he was or he wasn't. That's the story they're telling us. But he wrote a book in the 1950s called Mission to Mars. Look it up on Amazon. Mission to Mars by Wernher von Braun. And on the cover of it is a rocket. And the rocket is the exact rocket, close to the exact rocket that Elon is going to be using to go to Mars, right? And it's a story about a civilization, a breakaway civilization on Mars, led by a guy named Elon.
That's so wild. And when did he write that?
That's not wild. It's predictive programming. Well, this is how they do stuff.
We talk about the books, The Last President and Barron Trump's Magnificent Journey.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
And that's a very similar instance where it was predictive programming and things happened. It's really wild. And that's nuts. I want to get your take at the end about what you think about Elon Musk, because I'm not sure what to think about him.
James, where did you leave off at? So, we were talking
Nick,
about.
You should ask. Yeah,
I am.
Yeah, I was passing it off to you. Yeah.
All right. So, one of the examples that I was researching was Orion and the constellation. So when you're in Australia, right, Orion's upside down, and then when you're on the northern hemisphere, it's the other way. So if you were on a globe, how does that make sense?
Yeah, so these two pictures of the moon were taken at the same time, one in the north and one in the south, and they look upside down to each other. One's in the night sky, one's in the day sky, so that's a whole nother thing. But that's just because you're at the opposite sides of the room. The earth is flat, everything in the sky is close, it's on the ceiling. So if we drew a 6 on the ceiling and we were at opposite ends of the room, one of us is going to see a 9, the other one's going to see a 6. And that's how things are upside down. And then the reason you can't see a star in the north, like the North Star from the south, although there was an observatory at 30 degrees south that filmed the North Star, which is impossible on a ball. It's just the weather conditions and the atmospheric conditions were right, and it could see it. That if we were in a giant room, 10-foot high ceilings, right? And we made the room 10 miles wide, okay? Giant room. And I sent you 5-8 miles away, I'm not going to be able to see you. A 10-foot high ceiling will merge with the floor in less than 5 miles.
What about the telescope or binoculars?
Clouds in the sky way over your head, out over the water, those clouds will touch the water from your perspective at 20 miles away, 20, 30 miles away, maybe. So a 10-foot high ceiling would merge. We're not going to be able to see each other unless, of course, we had a zoom lens to open up that space. And when we both look up, we're going to be looking up at different lights. That's how it works. It's all due to perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then what would you say to the thousands of pilots that say that the Earth is got a curvature?
They train though, like it's a flat.
I'd say go talk to the thousands of other pilots that say it's not. There is no curvature. So you can't see curvature from 35,000 feet. This is 120,000 feet, and it's flat. It's when they don't use a fisheye lens that you can see. Science, Neil deGrasse Tyson says that 127,000 feet, you won't see curvature. So, Felix Baumgart, everyone says, what about Felix Baumgart? And, he did his Red Bull jump.
Yes.
And that's because they used a fisheye lens. I'm trying to find the picture as we talk. So again, here's Felix Baumgarten, and he said he saw the curvature. Now, was Felix lying, or did he expect to see the curvature? He's wearing a curved helmet the entire time. When you look through curved glass, the horizon's going to look curved when you're standing on the ground, let alone up here. Or was he told to do this? Because there was 2 test jumps that he did before this that they didn't have GoPro fisheye lenses, and everything was flat at eye level. But then the one they aired was this one. We have video from the test jumps that show a flat level horizon. The other problem
do you have those videos?
Yeah, they're on my app, and I'll talk about that. All of this, these rivers, everything, this is all New Mexico. This is all New Mexico. So New Mexico is either a fifth of the planet, maybe even a quarter, or this is just a fisheye lens, which it is. It's a fisheye lens.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a lot of space on the Earth. That is New Mexico.
Yeah. So it's a fisheye lens. That's it. The horizon, when this is 120,000 feet, it's a balloon, and the sun is right there. The sun's right there. It's right there. And you can see a hot spot on the ground. If it was 93 million miles away, it would light up everything evenly, but it's lighting up the local area right below it.
So why is it that like I've seen people take weather balloons and attach an iPhone to it and let it go up, and you could kind of see a curvature? Is it just because the camera? That's not a fisheye lens.
Well, all lenses have some curvature to it. You need a very high end lens to show you. But the problem is, we see a certain distance in all directions. So let's say it's 100 miles or 500 miles at that height or whatever it is. So if you plot, the same distance all the way around you, you're plotting a circle, a flat circle, and your brain is telling you it's a sphere. Because if I'm standing on the ground, I should only be able to see the water surface for 3 miles, because there's a 6-foot drop at 3 miles. 6 foot tall person at the edge of calm water should only be able to see the water for 3 miles, but we can see the water way farther than that. But even whatever the distance is, you're seeing a circle, and your brain is telling you from programming that it's a sphere, but in reality, you're just seeing in a circle.
Where do you think the programming stems from? Do you think it stems from the NASA programs and started
Well,
when
it
we're
started
born?
with your parents when they gave you a mobile over your crib of a solar system, okay? And then they bought you NASA sheets for your bed. And then Sesame Street had astronauts on it. Werner von Braun was on Sesame Street, and Walt Disney, and every single cartoon and television show was all about the globe programming. And Universal Pictures had a spinning globe before NASA ever went up into space, and it looked exactly like the pictures that NASA brought back from space. How did they know what it would look like when nobody had ever been up there?
So you're saying it's part due to your reticular activator. Do you know your reticular activating system in your brain? Like where your conscious, subconscious speak to
Refresh
each
my
other.
memory.
So it's like if you bought a Ford Mustang, a yellow Ford Mustang, everywhere you drive now, you see yellow Ford Mustangs everywhere. It's like you start noticing things because you have it, or you're trained to think like that. It's like when you're subconscious, it's a part of your brain that your subconscious tells your conscious to be on the lookout for it.
Most people don't realize there's globes in every single show that you watch. Everything. There's globes everywhere.
I have a globe on my
Any of
desk.
you have a globe in your house?
Right
You
here,
have
I'm
a globe
looking
in
at
your
it
house?
right now. To my right.
Can you grab it?
Yeah, hold on.
Go grab it. Go grab it. And now turn it upside down and read the sticker on the bottom, on the bottom of the base. On the bottom of the base.
Made in China.
Is there anything else that says right there? No, what does it say right there?
Globes are meant for educational purposes, but only decorative purposes. Globes are not meant for educational purpose, but only decorative purpose. Huh.
Yeah.
Why would it say that? That's
because this is the reason why, because they don't want anybody going out on I'm trying to find I can't even find a good globe. They don't want somebody going on a trip like from South America and trying to go to Africa and thinking it's like 3,000 miles away when in fact it's like 8,000 miles away. Okay, because that's not what it looks like on a flat earth.
Have you ever seen the longest journey by foot?
So look right here. So if you wanted to go from here over, you think, oh, that's a short little trip, right? That's not too bad, right? That's kind of what it looks like on a globe. You know, maybe it's a little farther apart on a globe, but when you look at it on a flat earth, it's way different. You know, you're going to go, I can't see with all my arrows on here. Let me find a better one. Here we go. This one's got it too, but it's from South America to go it's a much longer trip across. It's much longer.
So on your map, what's your edge? What's the edge of the planet then?
So the flat earth is not a disk in space. This is not what flat earth is. What it is think of a pond is a low spot where the water accumulates, and the edge of the pond is what? Where the water is higher than where the land is higher than the water, right? So the earth is a giant pond, a giant lake, and all of the continents are islands that are surrounded by water. But the earth pond is surrounded by land, and that land is the highest land on earth, and that land is called Antarctica. Antarctica is the highest land on earth. It is the container that holds our water. All large bodies of water at rest lay flat. And what's out here? I don't know. It's off limits. No one's allowed to explore past this pink line, which is a 60 degrees south. Okay. Could there be other oceans and other extra territory, extra terra, maybe some extraterrestrials could live out there? Right. Well, maybe there's humans out there that speak English. Okay. You know, that have migrated out there before this was all hidden from us. In the 1800s, there was airships bigger than aircraft carriers flying around the world. Okay, how come we don't hear about them? They demonized airships with the Hindenburg false, fate. I mean, it was a real thing, but it was demonized hydrogen, and then there's a helium shortage. You know why? Because there isn't a helium shortage. NASA owns all the helium companies and uses all the helium for themselves.
And what do they use it for?
Do you know what a satelloon is?
It's like a
Satellite
NASA
balloon.
satellite balloon.
Yeah, NASA launches tens of thousands of satellites on balloons in Antarctica. They don't tell us about them. They're crashing all over the world, though, and people are getting videos of them. But there's thousands of them. We have ex-military people that talk about the recovery program where they can capture these things in air. They go up for over a year at a time, maybe much longer. And then they can recover them in the air without ever bringing it, without ever, making them crash when they
What
need
do
to
they
bring them
do?
in. They do all sorts of things. Maybe they're taking pictures, maybe they're doing some sorts of communications, but reality, they're not doing GPS because GPS needs something that's not moving. Needs ground. The GPS is a ground positioning system. It used to be called LORAN, but then they put a graphic overlay over it, and all of a sudden said it was satellites. But in reality, all 99% of our communications or something like that is done through undersea cables. But
Yes.
what you'll notice is there's no cable from Santiago, Australia, which is really close on a ball. It goes all the way up, all the way around and back down. When an airplane is flying to Santiago, let me show you where it goes, because this is crazy. This does it for a lot of people. If you want to fly from Santiago, you would think that this is the shortest trip. But because Antarctica is so cold and desolate, it's too dangerous. So why don't you just stay at 55 degrees south and go around Antarctica and go over here, right? That is the shortest path, right?
Yeah.
But that's not how planes go. What they do is they go, everything moves for me all of a sudden. They go, when they want to go from Santiago, they go, here we go. They go all the way up to North America, across the equator, the northern hemisphere. They go across and then all the way down. Or if you want to go all the way over here, it's worse. They go all the way up. They cross all the way over to Europe and Dubai, and then they go all the way down. And if you want to look at that on a flat Earth map, here it is. Let's do the trip to the other side of Australia. It comes all the way up across America, Europe, Dubai, and Australia. It's a straight line.
Is there some kind
Airplanes
of wind
fly
reason why?
straight and level over the Earth plane. What's that?
Is there a reason why, in terms of winds or safety, why they wouldn't fly right
Well,
across like that?
the Globers will say, they used to say, well, they have to go pick up other passengers because it's all about money. Well, there's sold out flights that want to go from Santiago to here.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are some direct flights that don't have to stop, but they still take a path that goes all the way into the north, because that path is a straight line. If Santiago, all the way up across, right? That's one way they go.
So you subscribe to that all the continents are basically still connected.
Oh no, they're disconnected. I mean, this isn't a super accurate map, but these spaces are bigger than you believe. Russia and Alaska are like 35 miles apart. I mean, that's nobody disclaims that. That's
really
the
close,
same on a globe too.
Yeah.
What's that?
They're really close. You could take a short
Yeah, they're really
shortcut.
close. So there's all different ways to look at it. But again, anything outside of Antarctica is speculation, because we're not allowed to go there.
No.
I mean, the crazy thing is, this is the crazy thing. Do you know how fast, Nick, do you know how fast the Earth is spinning?
No, I mean, I could Google
Right.
it.
Well, by the way, I didn't know any of these answers when I was at the equator. It's spinning 1,000 miles an hour.
1,000 miles an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, 1,040, whatever. It's also orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles an hour.
I saw this diagram on one of the videos to rebuttal you.
Yeah. And then it's chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour. Can't even fathom what that is.
No.
And that entire system's moving sideways at a 1.2 million miles per hour. Okay. So think about all of those motions. You guys know what the Georgia Guidestones are, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
So the Georgia Guidestones has this little hole, And if you look through this long, thin hole, like a straw hole, literally, it's like, it's like that big.
Mm-hmm.
You look through it, and what you will see is Polaris, the North Star. And it's always there. Meanwhile, we're spinning, twirling, whirling, and whooshing at speeds and distances that you can't even fathom. But this thing's been up for over 4 decades, and the North Star is still in that hole. Just the spin of the Earth.
Don't they have the
Wouldn't
same
work.
setup at Stonehenge too? A
Yeah.
little hole. Don't they have a little setup
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Didn't we have a different North Star?
What's that?
Didn't we have a different North Star? Some
nice story, bro.
Like 10,
they said
40,000
years ago we had a different North Star.
Yeah.
And then in another 40,000 years, it's going to be Thuban or was Thuban, right? But we just happen to live at the time where Polaris is lined up. Now, these guys built this thing. It cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? They didn't build it so it won't work in a couple years. And even if we're supposed to get a new North Star, well, it would be unlined up. It's got to move a couple degrees a decade. It hasn't moved a friggin' quarter of a degree, right?
How far is that away?
Traveling billions of miles. What's that?
How far is that star?
So they tell us it's the NASA gives us 2 numbers that are like 40 trillion miles difference. Okay, that's just they don't even know. They're making up shit all the time. How far is the sun? They tell us the sun is 93 million miles away. You know how they came up with that? Because one day Venus, which is about the same size as Earth, transited the sun, and for somebody on the East Coast and somebody on the West Coast, it starts and ends at different times. And they did some funny math, and they said, "Oh, it's 93 million miles away." What's wrong with that equation? What's wrong with that equation? It's equivalent to this equation, Nick. You got $1 million in the bank, and I'm going to double it every day for 3 days. So tomorrow, how much are you going to have?
If I have $1 million in the bank, you're going to double it every day?
Yeah. So
2 million.
Tomorrow, how much we have?
I have 2 million.
And the next day?
4 million.
And the next day?
8.
Yeah. So you have $8 million in the bank, right?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that equation? I assumed you had $1 million in the bank. They assumed Venus was the size of Earth. I assume Venus is the size of a basketball. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, that's a wild.
Nobody can.
It's a wild assumption that you can't. Like, how are they going to?
So
well, if you know your own height, and then you can measure a shadow based on Earth that the planet casts. I'm just speaking hypothetically. I'm not an astrologer by any means, but if I know I'm 5'10", okay, and the shadow I cast is X, and then the shadow that the planet can cast is Y, then I can get the size of that planet.
So I think he's referencing the
wait. How's
theory.
How's the planet cast a shadow?
I don't know. A moon casts a shadow, and then based on
the moon,
see if I can find the size of the moon, right?
But you can't.
Why not?
Because nobody can. The only thing that we can truly say about the things we see in the sky is that they're lights. Because if they weren't lights, we wouldn't see them. Nobody knows how big or how far any of them are. And then the whole thing that you might be getting towards is Aristophanes, excuse me, the Greek philosopher or mathematician that had he could see the sun at the bottom of a well, so he put a stick up, and then his buddy put a stick up, but the buddy's stick had a shadow. This one didn't have a shadow. This one did. So it only works if the Earth is curved. And then he figured out that vector, and then did some math, and he came up with the size of the Earth. And Carl Sagan in the Cosmos show, he drilled that into every kid's head, and it's literally taught in every school across the entire world. But in fact, that doesn't work. It doesn't matter, because that the experiment was never done. The story was made up in the 1980s, stuck into school textbooks, and it never really happened. But on a flat Earth with a small local sun, this stick has no shadow. This stick has a shadow. Now I can calculate the distance between these two sticks, the angle of the shadow, and I could do math and tell you what the sphericity of this flat surface is. It's just math. We don't live in an equation. This works on a flat Earth, and it works on a ball Earth. So it doesn't prove either.
Well, that's one of the points that you make, is that there's evidence that shows things work on flat Earth and globe Earth, but not, and flat Earth alone, but not globe Earth alone. like certain
Nothing
experiments.
goes into the globe.
What are
Earth
some of
only
those? What are
box.
some of those experiments that we can conduct? Like people listening that they conduct.
The Cavendish experiment.
The Cavendish experiment has failed. It was a horribly done experiment, and no one's ever been able to reproduce it, and it's nonsense.
A lot of colleges, like when I was researching, a lot of people said they'd reproduced it.
They nobody did. So look into it deeper. If the Cavendish experiment was right, a plumb line next to Mount Everest should be pointed towards the mountain a little bit, but it's not. A plumb line goes down here. A plumb line goes down in Australia. It doesn't go up. It goes down. Down is down, no matter where you are across the Earth plane.
It's not opposite world. You don't go to the southern hemisphere and things flip.
Yeah, well, you're just across the room. That's it. The inner north. You know what? Can you activate screen sharing?
I think it's on.
It's not. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let's try.
There you go. All right. So not yet.
Nope.
You work on that, and I'll talk about another one. Here is a submarine, and we have submarine navigators that have told us the way a submarine navigates is it goes about 200 feet from the surface, not from the bottom. And then they set their fins, their wings, just to go straight and level. If the Earth was curved, they'd pop out of the water. But they can go for hours and hours and hours at full speed and never have to adjust. And they're following a straight line under a flat surface. If the Earth was curved, that surface would be going down and they would pop out of the water. But they don't. They just go straight and they stay 200 feet down. That's screen sharing. You just did something crazy.
I don't know what I did.
You're sharing your screen, so you wanted to hit stop screen sharing. I think.
There we go.
Let me see if you activated it. Nope, not yet. Hey, what you can do, you can just make me the host real quick. Just click on my three buttons.
Try now.
There you go. You did it. All right. So this is my app, right? You guys can see the whole thing. You have it. It's on the full screen.
Yeah.
So the face of the Earth is a clock, and I'll speed it up. So you'll see that the sun is about to pass the moon. So you're not going to see the moon for a couple times around. The sun is the hour hand on the clock. It goes around once every 24 hours. The sun keeps track of the hours and the days. And now you can see it's gaining distance on the moon, and the moon phase is changing. The sun will lap the moon in its daily cycle once every 28 or 29 days. So there's the cycles of the moon. So the position and the phase of the moon keeps track of the weeks and the months.
How do you show an eclipse on that?
Down.
Yeah.
Well, I'll show you. I'll show you the clips when we're done with this. The app actually doesn't show eclipses. We're working on an API to give you, because the moon has to migrate like the sun does. I'll get into that in a minute. But the stars, the fixed stars that never change, that reset every year, year after year, decade after decade, century after century, they're spinning slightly faster than the sun. So right now the sun is in whatever constellation that is, and then next month Pisces will catch up to the sun, and the sun will be in Pisces for a month, and then the Taurus will come after that, or whatever. I'm not good at naming all of these. So it'll lap the sun once every year. And
so this sun right here, right?
Yeah.
Does it change position closer to the center, further away from the center?
Yes, very good, very good. So you see the outer yellow line is the Tropic of Capricorn, and the inner yellow line is the Tropic of Cancer. So I hit the little jumping guy. I'm going to bring it up to June. So in June, it's over the Tropic of Cancer, and that's when we have our inner northern summer, right? Because the sun is closer to us, so it's higher in the sky. Imagine an airplane flying.
Why did it move?
Well, God moves the sun. All right. The sun is not a physical object. We can get into that in a minute.
But you have to explain why it moves. It doesn't just jump. Like
it migrates.
We can explain
it migrates 6 months.
But hold on, with the globe, you explain the season based on the Earth's tilt of the axis. So you have winter and you have summer.
So why does the Earth move?
It just does, and this proof in terms of shadows and the
No, you can't see it's proof, because even Einstein, who was an idiot, said that you can't prove whether we're going around the sun or that the sun's going around us. So imagine an airplane, two airplanes paralleling each other. One of them is 10,000 feet directly above your head, and one of them is 50 miles to the south. Same height, paralleling it. The one over your head is your summer sun. It's closer to you. It's higher in the sky. You're going to see it longer. The one out south is your winter sun because it's farther away. It's lower in the sky, just like we're seeing it now. But right now, the sun is moving. It's coming back from its outer loop. If I move it out to January, or December, if in December, whoops, I think I went too far. I went a little too far, but that's right. December, it's out over the Tropic of Capricorn, and it's the outer southern land summer. The sun's farther away from us. It's lower in the sky. It's over us, and it's going to go right over Australia. So they're in the heat of their summer while we're in the middle of our winter. And that's because it's closer and higher in the sky. It's that simple. Did you know that in the heliocentric model, during our winter in the north, the sun is 3 million miles closer to the earth during our winter? And they say it's just the little tilt of the earth that's making that difference. If that was true, sunrise every day would be freezing because that's the ultimate tilt away from the sun. But in June, on June 21st, if you go out and watch the sunrise on the horizon, as soon as you see the sun, you can feel the heat on your face, very strong. Yeah. And then you go 6 months later in December here in the north, when the sun is at its highest point for the day, a much more direct angle, you can barely feel the heat on your face here in Connecticut, right? And that's because it's farther away. It has nothing to do with the angle.
So where, like,
got it?
Where would you say the sun is located then? Like, is it inside our atmosphere or is it outside our atmosphere?
So let's get into that. That's a good question. So if you hit the frequently asked questions,
is there even an atmosphere?
Well, there is there is I call it an atmosphere. All right. There's air here. We're inside the Earth system. I believe it's enclosed. So there's air here, but I believe that the sun and the moon are being projected, for lack of a better word, into our reality. Again, this is stuff we can't prove, but I can show you an example that I can do an experiment that shows you, it does work that way. That's very interesting. So if I hit eclipses on the frequently asked questions, up come a whole bunch of eclipse videos. So here's an eclipse video that I made. And now I believe that the sun is being projected into our system. So on the right is an actual eclipse that I'm looking at. There's a little haze in the sky. And on the left, I'm creating the same thing with a projected sun on the back of a paper towel. So during the eclipse, they saw, can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
All right. So this eclipse looks like a little mini sun. Like, what is this? Now, this sun is actually the same amount of eclipse, but it's just so bright it's blowing out the lens. But the eclipse is about at this phase. This other thing jumping around is a lens flare, okay? Mm-hmm. But this one here was locked to the sun's position, right? It's not a lens flare, so what is it? And so what I think is that the sun that we see is being projected into us, and no one ever sees the moon approach the sun or exit the sun during an eclipse. And I think it's because the moon is on the outside of the firmament. So here's the eclipse that I'm making, right? But I used a paper towel, and I'm thinking, okay, what if the sky screen was not as opaque as that? So I used a thinner tissue. And look, here comes my eclipse. You don't see this moon approaching. You just see the eclipse happening. And look, there is the same thing. There's the same thing. So perhaps we're seeing the projector of the sun through the sky screen. That's a lot to take in.
That's really wild. I've never. So if I were to do that with my own paper towel roll,
you could do it yourself.
I could get that same outcome.
Yeah.
So it is a repeatable experiment. So
so there it is. And this is the projector. Like, you ever see a rear projection screen and you could look through the screen and see the projector?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm saying we're seeing there.
So that image, was
So
that coming from the back of your paper towel tube where you had the actual flashlight?
so it's on the outside of, so the paper towel is basically the sky screen and the sun is being projected in. I'm not gonna, I don't want to just be playing videos the whole time I'm here, but just real quick on the app, all the questions you're gonna ask are here, you know, like, hey, why the lie? These are the stuff that YouTube is hiding from you, like ships over the horizon. If I click ships over the horizon, up come all the videos that you won't find, and these are things that you can test and verify for yourself. Am I still sharing? Yeah, I'm still sharing.
Well, that's
Um,
another thing that makes me question
yeah,
the what we're told, because when they go into full cover up and they hide everything, they're not doing
right,
it just because it's nonsense. They're not just
right.
hiding everything from everybody because it's some crazy lunatic who's talking some nonsense. They're hiding it because there's probably some truth to it, and they
What
don't
about
want
Antarctica? Like Antarctica has cruises though. There's like the Antarctica cruise ship or cruise line.
Yeah, you go right up to the edge. Maybe you go in
Correct.
less than half a mile at most. And I think watching some of your videos, Dave, right, there's maybe 17 companies, however many that go to Antarctica, and they're all owned by one parent
One
company.
guy. Yeah, one parent company. So that's kind of like, you know, our networks, our news networks are all owned
Yeah.
by the one board of directors. And it'll cost you $10,000 to $30,000 to go for a couple days. They show you nothing. How come there's no cruise um from South America to Australia? Because it's too far. They can't fake it. You know, on an airplane, they can do a direct flight because airplanes can go a lot faster than they're telling anyone, and no one would even know, not even the pilot, if the GPS was lying to him. And that's what GPS does in the South, it lies. South is every direction away from the center. East and west are circles. Every day there's a new video down here. And I say just watch the video every day for 2 weeks, and you too will lose the respect of your family and friends, just like I did.
Well, we did that a long time ago with the rabbit holes that we've gone down and tried to tell our friends and family. So we're
Yeah.
comfortable doing that already.
So here's a flight from Taiwan to LA, right? And that's how it would go on a ball. But there was an emergency right about here. Someone had a heart attack or was having a baby. So they could have gone to Hawaii. They could have, well, I'm not pointing. So there's emergency right about here. They could have gone to Hawaii. They could have turned around and gone back. But instead, they went all the way up to Alaska, which is thousands of miles out of the way. But when you look at it on a flat Earth, that's really where it goes. So it happened right here. They just went to Alaska right there. It was on the way. It wasn't thousands of miles out of the way. There's a book called 16 Emergency Landings Prove Flat Earth. You can buy it on Lulu or it's free online, a PDF version. Just sit down and look at that. Every single emergency landing that's in this book makes 0 sense on a globe and coincidentally makes perfect sense on a flat Earth.
So one of the things that really fascinates me about this whole thing is Antarctica. There's a lot of things that tie into Antarctica, like I said, with the Nazis and Operation High Jump, the treaty that they all signed, that there's no independent research to be done in Antarctica, and the fact that you mentioned earlier that you can't go past a certain point. Why isn't like an independent pilot trying to fly down there? Like if I were to go and buy say I'm a millionaire. Oh, there we go. I lost myself. I'm dead.
I guess I'll answer his question, or should I
There,
wait?
there,
You
we-
want to do
there,
another question?
there we go.
Oh,
So,
he's
so,
back.
so say I was a millionaire and I could afford to get
Yeah.
a really nice plane and I got my own pilot's license, because that's something that I would enjoy
Okay.
doing, is getting a pilot's license if I had the money to do so. What stops
Yep.
me from flying down to Antarctica and going past the point where they don't want us to?
Where are you going to get fuel?
Yeah, that's
How
what
are
it
you
is.
going to
I gotta
navigate?
refuel.
That's true. That I didn't even think
Where are
of
you going to
that.
get fuel? And how are you going to navigate? GPS doesn't work down there, and neither do compasses. If the Earth was a ball, like they tell us, with a magnetic core, compasses would point to the south very strongly down there, but they don't. The magnetic declination in some of the points in Antarctica is 170 degrees, which means
Have you been down there?
I have not, but we are working with a TV show that's going to take us down there. And
Okay.
we want to go to the South Pole.
So you're
on the
speculating that a magnet doesn't work down there.
No, we have lots of people with videos, people that have been there, and they videoed it, how it doesn't work. But you don't even have to do that. Just go on a magnetic declination map, and there's points in in down there that say the magnetic declination is 170. So, like in Texas, the magnetic declination is like 5 degrees, which means, or whatever, I'm not sure where, but 5 degrees means, so you point north, and then true north is 5 degrees off of that. Not too bad, okay? So that's weird. But in some places in Antarctica, on the right near the shoreline, the magnetic declination is like 170 degrees. So north is that way. The compass says it's that way, but it's really that way. Okay, that's insanity.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Completely opposite.
What?
Completely opposite. Makes no sense. Here's one for you. Rockets that NASA shoots up and all of the other fake space agencies curve right out and go over the ocean. This is a rocket that was shot up in Arizona. Pay attention, Nick. Paying attention?
I'm looking at the globe right here, thinking about being really far down south.
Yeah. So this will help
if-
you with the globe.
Yeah.
At 73 miles, this hit something. It went kerplunk, like it went into water or something viscous. I'm not saying what it was.
Yeah.
That's not the point of this. The point is, this thing went straight up. It gave us an uninterrupted view, unlike NASA's, 15 edits within the first 30 seconds of a rocket launch. And all of a sudden, we saw the moon. This is the moon. Okay, we zoomed in on it. It's the moon. Okay, besides the Earth looking flat, which this isn't even about, we saw the moon, but the moon was over Australia. So we're on that globe. This rocket is like a 0.5 millimeter off the globe, off of Arizona. So put your finger on Arizona, Nick. On the globe, put your finger on Arizona.
All right, I'm on it.
All right, and now the moon is over Australia. Could you see the moon? Of course not. You'd have to look straight through the globe, but we could see the moon here. So the only explanation is that the Earth is flat.
How do you know that's Australia? And how do you know that's Arizona?
No, this is Arizona. This is Arizona.
Where the people
And
that
we know
shot
the
off
date,
rocket.
the time when this was launched, and you look on timeanddate.com, it shows the moon directly over Australia.
Another telling thing, why don't I see any stars here?
Well, people
I always thought that
will
was
say
weird.
that's the aperture. They'll say, aperture or whatever. But
So, real
NASA
quick,
can't get any photos of stars because of the aperture. But I can take my iPhone underneath a friggin' street light and look up and see stars beyond the street light. Don't say aperture, right? Because that's just a friggin' word and a dumb excuse.
Now you said go back to what you talked about, north being off by so many degrees when you're in Antarctica, right? What was that? How many degrees
Yeah,
off
so
is
the
north?
magnetic declination
Yeah.
is 170 degrees in some places in Antarctica.
So would that also hold true if I was north trying to find true south?
No. Compasses work perfectly in the north.
No problems.
None.
So why
None that I
would it
know of.
why would it work perfectly in the
If
north?
you're on
Because-
if you're on a globe, right? If I'm here, whatever the opposite should take place up here. Then if the magnetic core of the Earth is the same throughout the whole entire circle, if I'm here,
You should have equal things at equal latitudes.
yeah,
But that's not how it works. Here's the north, right? This is the North Pole. It's a magnetic mountain. I believe it's a mountain, but it's a magnetic attraction to the center. And this compass always has to point to it. So I'm dead reckoning east or west, but east and west are circles, as I showed you on the app. But this will prove to you that east and west are circles. So you can go all the way around, dead reckoning 90 degrees or 270, and end up right back where you started from. Some people will claim that that's a proof that they live on a ball, but you're really just circling the lake. But if you try to dead reckon in a straight line and not correct your course, within a short distance, you're heading south, right? That needle has to point towards the center. He's heading south right now. That's south. That's south because he didn't keep correcting to the north, right? So here's the thing. On a ball below the equator, you'd have to correct to the south. But there's Navy ship captains that say that when they're trying to dead wreck in 90 degrees, even in the Indian Ocean, they always have to correct to the north. And that proves that shows that the Earth is flat, or there's a really bad current and the rudder's bent. But you can also, if you now going south, you just go south and you just keep on going and go away. If I go south, I'm just going to go away, 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 and I'm not going to pop up on the other side. I'm just going to keep going away. Get it?
Yeah, I get it. It's a lot to take in.
So here's the thing: the globe has a huge advantage over flat Earth. It's easy. I believe in the globe. Let's go drink some beers.
I'm right. Listen, I'm right there with you because I'm a free thinker, and that's what we kind of started the show for, was to ask these questions and find the truth.
Right.
And
So
go ahead, Nick.
Orbiting planets in the sun and the Earth, and it spins, and the moon and all the planets that orbit and circulate, right? They go in circles, correct? No.
Well, they not necessarily. They do circle around. I don't know the motions of the planets that well, but they do. I know that the stars circle around, the sun and the moon circle around. I think that the planets make circles too, but they might do some little loop-de-loops like spirograph. I don't know. I haven't really studied that a lot, so I don't want to speak out of turn.
Because I was something popped up when I was researching some videos about Neptune and Uranus, and how there was a problem with Uranus and the way it would rotate. There was irregularities in the rotation of Uranus, and they found out there, because of the irregularities, there had to be some kind of planet a little beyond it. So
have you ever seen that irregularity? Or are you listening to the liars at NASA tell you there's an irregularity?
Well, that's Nick doesn't understand that NASA is a pile of hot garbage.
So Nick, if I show you that NASA's faking space just once, will that be enough to unwind it all the way to we didn't go to the moon? I mean, if they're lying, if they're liars, they're liars. So
a liar's a liar.
Yeah. On the space station. Well, here's the old one. This is the first spacewalk. Watch his helmet. Okay. Now his helmet shouldn't pivot because his head turns inside the helmet. But when he turns, this is a claymation dummy. Okay, watch. I'm going to zoom in. Right. Watch when he turns his head. The whole thing turns. This is a doll. Yeah, this isn't a human floating in space. Okay. That's crazy. That's nonsense.
So speaking of this ISS, right? Because this is a question I wanted to ask you about. A girl that we work with, she took a picture with a nice camera, and she caught the ISS passing in front of the moon.
The moon.
So now,
the sun and the moon, right?
Are you saying that was like would you call them a satelloon?
No, well, that's a parlor trick from NASA. That's a newer thing that they give you the coordinates and the times when the space station will be transiting the sun or the moon. But just like an eclipse, you don't ever see it approaching or exiting. You just see it for the 1.5 seconds that it's crossing the face. And if you look at it, the shape of it, it kind of looks like, it doesn't look like the real shape. It looks like an H, but not like what the space station should really look like. But again, if you look at the chart of where you'll be able to see it, it shows like, all right, it's coming across Connecticut. You can see it all across Connecticut, and then it's going into New York, and then all of a sudden it stops. And the person a mile away won't ever get to see it. It just stops. Like if it was doing what it's orbiting, that line should always be continuous where it's going, where people can see it. And it's because it's a parlor trick. It's some sort of airplane with either a wearable hologram or with H-shaped wings on it, and it flies a certain course and lets people take a picture of it, and they believe they're seeing the space station. But here's the problem: you couldn't see it. So physically, I can prove this. So if you look at a 747, the 747 is gigantic. You stand next to the wheel. I think the wheels are 6 feet tall. They're giant, right? You're a tiny person next to this thing. Move it up to cruising altitude. You can't even see the plane, right? If it wasn't for the trail, you probably wouldn't have seen it, right? You with me?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
How yeah, and how would you
So wait, hold on. So if I doubled that height, of course you couldn't see it. And you can provably not see it because its angular size would be so small that you just couldn't see it. Your eye can't resolve anything that small. Well, the space station is 50 times higher, and it's about the same size. It's 50 times higher, and we can see it with our naked eye? Impossible. Satellites are even farther and smaller, and we can see those with our naked eye? Provably impossible.
So I saw you playing that a video behind you with the guys in the space station. That's something that I've seen and something that I've showed people of them floating around with harnesses.
Yeah, so they were doing this little flippity flip with their little CGI hat, and all of a sudden this guy floats by in the back. So I zoomed in on it because he was way far away, and you could see that the green screen didn't take out his harness and the wires. He's hanging from wires, just floating by. And these guys were in. Good.
No, because I know NASA has been caught multiple times showing CGI photos. Like they've been caught.
Everything they show is fake. They've
Yeah.
never been to space. Not a space agency, NASA.
Not a space. That's pretty good. But so
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 see this hat he's flipping around here? See this little hat? That hat isn't really there. That is a augmented reality virtual object that he's playing with, and he goes to he's supposed to pass it to this guy, but he thought it was passing it, and he grabbed it and he put it away, and then it's just repeating. He mistaken, and if you watch his face, he's looking at the monitor going, oh fuck, I missed it. Right? This happens all the time with these guys. Right?
The guy's face almost looks like
Yeah.
CGI. The guy on the left,
Yeah.
in green.
So
It almost-
look, watch his eyes. Watch his eyes. He's like,
Oh shit.
oh shit, oh shit, I screwed up. Right? Check this out. Watch this thing right here. You can see it through his head. He's being faded in. This guy is floating on a 0G plane, but there are no left hand or right hand turns. So they're literally fading him in. Right? Watch this. Virtual reality. Watch over here. Anything here? Oh, look, all of a sudden there it is. That is not a real object. These things that she's playing with are virtual reality. They're augmented reality. They're literally it's simple technology. She's looking either through contact lenses that are showing her, or she's looking at a screen and she's manipulating these objects in real time.
What do they say when people come out with these videos?
They don't say anything. They will never, ever respond to any of us, right? Here's Don Pettit, the only guy that thinks he went to space because he's actually retarded. He's drinking coffee out of a plastic container, showing how the coffee sticks to the side. But watch what happens. The coffee gets out of sync with the container. Okay?
It's all digital. It's all digital.
Wow.
It's all digital bullshit. Ready? Here's one. Chris Hadfield singing. This guy is miking him, but they're in different rooms, right? They're in different rooms, and he misplaces where Chris is, and he sticks the microphone right into his neck. Okay?
Well, that's the guy that's
It's inside of Chris's neck.
Yeah. Oh wow, it is. It's like in his head.
Yeah. And the guy like freaked out. He didn't know what to do, and this was supposedly live. I think it was live, but they did it in this green screen room. It's unbelievable.
And that's the guy. That's the same guy that has pictures of him with like
it's
an ounce
so
of weed.
Nick. It's so easy to deceive you. Like when you look down, they show the Earth. Nick, why can't we see any land here? This is obviously from the space station.
Well, that shot just has to be on the ocean.
It does. It has to be on the ocean.
Yeah.
Or am I totally deceiving you? And this was taken in somebody's front yard and just turned upside down. Okay. That's how easy it is to deceive.
Wow.
This was literally, yeah. That's what their show is. They always show us a little something. And what is this? Is this a balloon, a blimp, or is this 40,000 pounds of steel falling through the sky?
Looks like
I don't know what the fuck that is.
Well,
like a
here.
missile, a
So-
giant dildo.
Well, this is supposedly the external tank from the Challenger. This is gigantic, right? It's a
Uh-huh.
helium balloon. Watch, you're going to see a piece of paper fly by it in a second. This is 40,000 pounds. It should be falling pretty damn fast. Watch, a little piece of paper is going to fly right over here. Give it a second. And there it goes. See the piece of paper? And there'll
Yeah.
be another one coming over here. So this is showing you that this is just floating in the sky, right? This is just floating in the sky.
And they're just filming it as if it's falling, and
They're
just-
filming it telling you that they're orbiting. They're supposedly going 17,000 miles an hour, and that this thing is falling to the earth, and it's going to get so hot that it's going to burn up and vaporize. It's 40,000 pounds of steel.
and it just falls out of
Right?
the sky. What? So what?
This
what
is a blimp. A blimp, right? The space shuttle, when it took off, this is the space shuttle. Watch, a little wind. It's a bouncy house. Okay. This is 4 million pounds on the tarmac, and it's blowing around like a bouncy house.
down in Florida.
That's why the space shuttle goes up and it turns on its back, because the helium external tank is lighter than the other balloon.
So then when they
Crazy,
drop
right?
that off, you
Watch.
say it. They
Watch. It's a balloon. This is a rocket assisted balloon, and this helium tank is lighter than this balloon, right?
That just can't be
And-
forced from that rocket pulling it up.
No, because it's a balloon. No one's ever been on one of those. No person has ever been on it. What about the Challenger astronauts? Is that what you're going to say?
I was just going to ask that. What about those guys?
So we won't say too much about them, but we found
I've seen this.
people that look like them, sound like them, have the same exact name as them, and the same birthday. And they claim that they're not that person. And some of them claim that they're their identical twin, even though there's no record of them having an identical twin. And the identical twin never showed up or spoke at their funerals.
That's really wild, and
God.
it's a classic trick that they do. They do these tricks all of the time. Like, people don't even realize. Like in 1962 with Operation Northwoods, they were planning a false
Right.
flag event, and they were gonna fake an explosion and fly the passengers to an Air Force base and let them off and go
Right.
on to live.
What
their
about
life.
these guys? Did these guys just do the first three guys to go to the moon, have a good time, come back and survive? Or did their dog just die?
Yeah, they do look pretty somber, a little sad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So then, what would you? So Buzz Aldrin, I know he's punched a couple guys for saying that space is fake and the moon landing is
So
nonsense.
so was it Buzz? David Nano Rodriguez, a famous boxer. I
Yeah.
was on his
I'm
show,
familiar with him.
and he said that he saw Buzz Aldrin at an event, and he got him alone for a minute, and he goes, "Hey Buzz, I know you guys never went to the moon. What's up with that?" And Buzz looked at him, smiled, patted him on the back, and goes, "You're a smart kid," and he walks away.
Well, and you look at those old photos that they try to tell us. It's clearly a set.
Yeah, and also Neil Armstrong, I think it was Neil, it was Neil, yeah, that I forget who it was, some researcher guy, I'm spacing on his name, the guy that is in charge of I forget, David Greer, Richard Greer,
Greer
Whatever.
sounds familiar. Yeah.
With, oh, so maybe it wasn't Richard Greer, but it doesn't matter. He wanted to interview him. He contacted him through a known associate, and he gave them a message saying, "If I grant you this interview, they'll kill me and my family." And then he never did it. Was it Buzz? Was it Buzz or it was Neil Armstrong? I think he said, "If I grant you this interview, they'll kill me and my whole family."
Well, I always found it fascinating that Richard Nixon was calling from like a landline telephone in the 60s all the way to the
Right.
moon and talking perfectly clear and
without any delay. And then in 2000 and whatever, when they did the Red Bull jump, they pretty much lost communication before he got to 120,000 feet. They literally could barely reach him at 120,000 feet.
I've
Right.
I've
And
seen
think about this. Think about this. So this is the Earth, right? And the
Mhm.
Earth is spinning to the east. Okay. So he went up for 3.5 hours. It's spinning. So he should land out west. It's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. So he should land west, 1,000 of miles. He should, no, 1,000 miles an hour. It's up there for 3 hours. He should be like 3,000 miles out in the ocean, but he landed, it's spinning east, and he landed east of where he took off. How did he outrun the spin of the Earth when he was up in space?
If he's moving at that fast when he's on the ground, wouldn't he traject also at 1,000 miles an hour coming up for a certain point?
Well, at that height, he'd have to actually gain speed to keep up with the Earth, because that's a bigger circle than the circle of the Earth.
Yeah, that
He'd
little
have to
bit.
gain speed. And you know what? At 40 or 45,000 feet, there's winds that are outrunning the Earth by 200 to 300 miles an hour. The Earth is spinning, and there's winds up there that are outrunning the Earth in the same direction.
So 1,300 miles an hour, these winds.
Well, according to a spot in space, sure, about 200 to 300 miles an hour according to the surface of the Earth.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you in regards to space. So we have these telescopes that are out there, say like Hubble, and I think that there was a new one. So what is it that they are actually looking into, in your opinion?
So what they're looking into is nothing, because they don't exist. This is a friggin' soda can wrapped in tinfoil that NASA's telling us is the Hubble. This is actually the Hubble, they tell us. But think about this. The telescope on Earth, the big telescopes that do these time-lapse deep space pictures, they're built on gigantic cement pads. I was watching a Nova show on it, and the pads have to be like 8-10 feet thick concrete, because they can't have the slightest vibration, because the slightest vibration could ruin one of the deep space shots, because the light coming in is so weak.
It's so far, yeah.
How can you worry about the vibration when the Earth is fucking spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and moving in 4 other directions at all these speeds? How can this thing that's falling around, the Earth is moving in all those directions, and this thing's going an additional 17,000 miles an hour around the Earth? How could the tiniest vibration even matter? This thing's moving in 5 directions at once, and they're worried about the vibration. The reason that they have those pads for those telescopes is because they can't move. This tiniest motion will ruin the picture.
Well, then with those telescopes, you have to have a lot of people at these universities, whatever, that are looking into them. They all have to be looking at something, you would think, right? So what are they looking at?
So absolutely, you would think that. One of our guys got the head of the Hubble program, or one of the top guys there, and he was talking to them about the Hubble images. And there's a airplane, a 747, that has a telescope built into the side of it called Sophia. And this guy knew all about Sophia, our guy. And he was talking to this guy about Hubble, and because he says the pictures that Hubble giving us, he goes, I think they're from Sophia. And the Hubble guy admitted that he's never seen Hubble, that he's never gotten any confirmation that of his entire life's work he has no proof that Hubble even exists. Right? Hubble's in the thermosphere, which is like 3,000 degrees. Can you tell me what alloy this is that can handle 3,000 degrees? Right? This is nonsense. This is nonsense.
Even Sophia is looking at something, right?
Sophia is looking, they're looking towards the outer space. I took a picture of the deep field shot, high-res picture supposedly of the deep space, where there's, every dot is another galaxy and all this stuff. And what I did is I brought it into my movie editor, and I zoomed in on the tiniest little space, and then it did the Ken Burns effect, just spreading out and just spreading out. So basically, I put it up. I was banging heads with some Globers talking that they're saying all of this space video is real, and I showed it to them. I said, this is fake as fuck. And he's like, no, man, it's real. It's a time lapse. It's from this and that. And basically then I zoomed all the way out, and I showed him what it was, and I never heard from him again.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of people. Once they're told new information that goes against their core beliefs, they refuse to accept it. Cognitive dissonance, pride, whatever it may be,
Right.
they don't want
Right,
to
right.
hear it. And that's what a lot of we come across those problems a lot in a lot of the rabbit holes that we've covered. And if your show Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole used to go down other rabbit holes, I'm sure you've seen it outside of the flat earth, but the flat earth gets it from all angles. They get it from the quote unquote conspiracy theorists too.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
we're spinning, twirling, whirling. Neil deGrasse Tyson says that water bulges 14 miles high at the equator because of the spin. Well, that kind of makes sense on a spinning Earth. But, we have all of those motions, all of that's going on. And somehow we have lakes that look like this, right? Zero, not a ripple, not a slosh. How come this isn't sloshing to one side like the equator? How come this is a perfect glass lake? We're spinning, twirling, whirling. Curvature is acceleration. If you're going 1,000 miles an hour in a straight line, you could argue that that's not anything. But as soon as you start curving, that's acceleration.
so that makes complete sense because if you drive in a car with a bowl full of water, the water is going to be moving everywhere. It's gonna you make a turn and the water is going to start spilling
It's
out.
going to slosh right across, right?
Well, the water was big for me too. I mean, I don't know if we had this ride on the boardwalk down the shore called Gravitron, right? And so you would go inside this spinning disc and it would spin really, really fast and would push you to the outside. And so you'd be like stuck against the wall. Yes. Right. So in my mind, if the earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour, wouldn't that push the water out? It wouldn't pull the water.
Yeah. Well, they say that the water bulges.
Wall.
They say the water bulges at the equator, but they say it bulges 14 miles high. That's taller than Everest. You're flying to the south at 5 miles in the air. At what point do you climb an extra 10 miles just to skim over a hump of water? Right? At no point. No point.
So that's that
sea level, airplane, not air globe.
That's really wild. I didn't even think of that. So if it goes up so we fly at 5 miles high, an average commercial.
Yeah, about 5 miles high. Yeah.
So say I wanted to go to like Brazil from North America, the plane would have to climb and then literally be 15 miles in the air and just graze over, like,
and just skim over a hump that doesn't exist.
So if we were like, what country? So somewhere in Central America that we'd be able to see planes just like right over our head. Like I have McCarran Airport, so planes fly right over my head all the time. I see it regularly, but they're landing. Like it's only a couple miles away.
So look, right here is the equator, and that's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. So if you drew, if I pulled a string around this globe, the string is going to be 3 feet long, right? Whatever it is. Okay. You with me?
Yep.
So if I was an inch away from the axis of rotation, that's not moving 1,000 miles an hour, because if I drew a string an inch all the way around, it's only going to be like 3 inches, long. It's going to be a short piece of string. So if I'm on a runway a mile from the North Pole, I'm only moving at like a quarter of a mile an hour. If I'm sitting on a runway in Ecuador, I'm moving 1,000 miles an hour. If I took off from the North Pole on an airplane, I sped up to 500 miles an hour, and I flew to Ecuador, and I wanted to land on a runway that was oriented north-south. This runway is moving sideways at 1,000 miles an hour. How the fuck am I going to land on it?
That's a good fucking question, actually. I never thought of that. That's insane. What? So wait.
Now, don't pilots train as though we live on a flat plane? Is that true?
Yeah, all the manuals say treat the Earth as a flat, non-rotating plane. CIA manuals, all sorts of stuff. There's tons of documents. And again, on the Flat Earth app, under question marks on about what about pilots, we have testimony from pilots. We have all the released documents. Do you know that NASA is in charge of all long distance plane routes?
Is it really?
NASA.
What?
They're in charge of flight plans for all long distance plane routes.
So like from here to Australia or here to Thailand.
Yeah,
I had a very
NASA.
weird plane route. I mean, I had to fly to Singapore from New Jersey. And when you had the map up of the flat plane, we flew
Yep.
not how I thought we were going to. And then right before we took off, they actually announced a change of the flight path. We left from New Jersey and then we flew up towards Alaska. And then we came down
Right.
to Hong Kong, and then
Look.
we connected. Yeah.
Look, damn, straight line.
That's really
Yeah,
wild.
that's why it hit me when you had that up. I was like, oh shit. Because I
So
remember
then-
we flew to
Yeah.
Alaska and then down. I was like, wow.
So
Yeah.
then which I mean technically it would be south based on what you're saying, but how would how would we take a flight to Antarctica from the United States? Like say like I know a lot of
Every-
politicians.
Here, if you want to
Go
go to
down.
Antarctica, get on an airplane and don't turn the wheel, and you'll end up in Antarctica. Any direction you want will take you to Antarctica.
So it's all
Every
around
straight
us.
line is south.
Now, would that not fall into the bucket of works in a globe and works on a plane?
No, because on the equator, if you're on the equator, and you went straight on a ball, you would stay on the equator, right? But on a
Mhm.
flat Earth, if you're on the equator, which is right here, straight line, it would bring you over to Antarctica. Every straight line would bring you to Antarctica, no matter which way you go. Every straight line.
Oh, so you're saying every straight line. So what I'm thinking, I
Every
guess,
straight line. So
whenever
like
you go
if I want to
south-
go, look, from here, I can go north. I'm going south. I didn't change
Yeah.
directions. I'm just going in a straight line, and now boom, I'm there. Every direction from the North Pole is south, right? South,
Yeah.
south. Every straight line ends up going south.
So then Antarctica is all around us. So it's a massive
Antarctica, yeah. So Captain Cook tried to circumnavigate Antarctica, right?
So
And so
I want to cut you off real
So-
quick. You want to hear a wild story? Not a quick
Yeah.
wild story. Captain Cook,
yeah,
his grandson was my next door neighbor.
nice.
Yeah. So I want to ask him some questions.
So 13,000 miles. This is 13,000 miles. Captain Cook tried to circumnavigate. It took him 3.5 years, and he went like 60 or 80,000 miles. I don't even think he finished, because this is a much bigger circle than the equator, which is a 24,000 miles around.
So then is there even any such thing as the equator?
The equator is just the center line. It's not nothing physical. It's just a center line halfway between the center and halfway between Antarctica. Now that is something that is the same on the ball and the flat Earth, and it can be semi-measured because you're flying. If you're flying along the equator, but measuring distance in an airplane, you can only do it because of GPS. When you're not flying over land, and NASA runs that. But here, let's look at a photo from NASA. So NASA has basically two images of Earth that are completely ridiculous and make no sense once you actually look at them. So one of them is the blue marble, and the other one was taken a few years later. So look at the United States
Mm-hmm.
and look at the United States. Right? These are supposedly two photos, right? That's ridiculous. But let's look at this one. This is something we can measure. We can drive across Mexico. We could take a boat that goes, 30 miles an hour across this inlet, and then we could drive across Baja, and we could firmly say this is 934 miles.
Yeah,
Would they?
definitively, yeah.
Definitively. They tell us that NASA tells us that the diameter of the Earth is 7,917 miles. So we should be able to fit 8.5 of these in between these two lines. But 8.5 of those doesn't even fit on this page.
No, you could barely.
Okay.
You could barely fit 3 across the.
So
the middle.
either this is a painting, NASA's full of shit, or the Earth is a quarter of the size they say it is, and half the continents don't exist.
You think half the continents don't exist? Like,
No, I'm saying those are your two choices. It's
oh.
a painting NASA's line.
Yeah, no, there's no way you could fit the rest of Russia,
Nick,
Europe.
they deceive us so easy. Nick, what planet is this?
The pictures are in the way. Could be
You can't see the
Venus.
picture. You can't see it.
You can move those
Move
things
it.
down. I just did that.
All right. Oh, there we go. All right, go ahead.
What planet is that?
D. Neptune.
Anybody?
Looks like Jupiter.
Jupiter, I'd say maybe.
Yeah, actually, it's a meadow with ducks.
Wow.
I see it now.
I'm
Go
just saying,
duck hunting there.
it's so easy to deceive people. It's so friggin' easy.
So then what
Right?
would you say?
How about
the
this?
planets
How about
are?
this? This is the 2014 picture that everyone has seen, and then in 2016 they go, "Hey, we got pictures of the Northern Lights, which proves that they have a magnetic center. Also, it proves that Jupiter has a magnetic center." So first, and nobody thinks this is real, but let's just assume it's real. Overlay these two pictures, right? This is supposed to be a gassy, ball of ever-changing clouds, but every single cloud is exactly the same. This one's just a little darker. See this little dot right here, right? There it is. Every
Yep.
single thing you overlay them, there's nothing that has changed. But meanwhile, NASA, has shown us this as a time lapse over just a couple of hours or days. But somehow 2.5 years apart, every cloud is the same. So you have two choices. Clouds don't change on a windy, stormy planet, or NASA's full of shit. Actually, you have two choices. NASA's full of shit or NASA's full of shit. The other one doesn't even count anymore.
No, I agree with you on NASA's full of shit.
Did we go over this yet?
No.
No, not yet, but
Right.
let's do
So
it.
if the Earth is flat, how come we can't see Mount Everest? Here's Luge, France, and out here is Mount Canigou. Okay, well, Mount Canigou is 175 miles away, and if you use the Earth curve calculator from this elevation and that distance, the top of Mount Canigou would be a mile below the curvature. So therefore, that's why we can't see it. Earth must be a globe, right?
Mhm.
But on 2 days a year, when the sun's migrating in between the tropics, it lines up with this viewing spot and Mount Canigou. And as it goes beyond it, all of a sudden, looks like clouds. But wait a minute.
Yeah,
You look
could
at this. This is the exact outline of Mount Canigou. The very top right here should be a mile below this curve, but we can see the entire mountain. It's
So
here.
I've seen videos of like oil rigs 9 miles out, and based on the curvature, that should be impossible. It should be,
Well, no, you can see the oil rig, but what you can't see is this camera is at 1 foot off the ground. At 1 foot off the ground, ball math tells you that the horizon should be 1.2 miles away,
Mhm.
right? But there should be 59 feet of curvature. But not only can we see the water surface here, we can see it for tens of miles beyond it. So there should be hundreds of feet of curvature.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be able to see that far at all.
In the app, there's a curve calculator. So when you go to the beach, get yourself a super zoom camera, tripod, say, hey, I can figure out how far that buoy is or how far that island is, and then zoom in on it and look at the calculator, and it'll tell you how much of it should be behind curvature, and you'll see it. It'll be right there.
So then, what are the planets then? Are they real, or are they just nonsense? Do planets even exist?
So they used to be called wandering stars.
Uh-huh.
They circle around. They're all named after gods.
Mm-hmm.
They're sentient in nature. So this is the star Arcturus. Does that look like a burning ball of hydrogen? Trillions of miles
Looks like a
away.
strobe light.
Well, this is the star Arcturus, and this is Sirius. There's all sorts of geometric patterns in there.
Wow.
This is Capella. Okay. These are within the Earth system. These, if you ask me, Crazy Dave, I think stars are souls, and the moon delivers and removes souls on our planet. That's why it's tied to women's reproductive cycles. Don't ask me how or what or where or how or who, but don't ask me any of that. But I think that, this realm, we're here having this soul's experience, and we're here to have an experience. It's kind of like an amusement park.
I agree with
When
that.
you align with your soul, you have a good time. But when you are separated, when someone steals your mind because it puts it in a prison and then it fills you with fear, and you watch CNN or Fox or any of those stations,
Garbage.
you literally lose control of your soul, when our whole goal is to maintain control of our soul.
Well, speaking of souls and with what we're talking about now, so Middle Ages, let's say, I don't know if it was like 1400s or whatever, it was understood that the earth was flat and it was
You there?
heretical. Can you hear me?
Yeah, cool story, bro.
No, but what I'm saying, it was heretical then to think that it was a globe, right? And now we're in basically the complete opposite, where it's heretical then to think that it's flat. So what was the sense in that flip back then?
Well, I don't believe the flip happened then. I believe the flip happened less than 100 years ago. I was interviewing a 102-year-old woman named Ruth in February of 2020. And I was interviewing her about the world's fairs. And she had such a great memory of her 5th birthday party she was telling me about. And so I asked her, I said, what did they teach you? Where'd you go to school? In elementary school? And she knew in Connecticut, the street that it was on, the name of the school, the teachers, kids in her class. I said, what did they teach you in science class? And I had never mentioned any of this to her. And she goes, what did they teach you about the earth in science class? And she goes, they taught me the earth was flat. And so then we did more research, and we found newspaper articles that were persecuting teachers in the early 1900s for trying to introduce heliocentrism into the school system. We found in Croatia, all of the schools taught that the earth was flat in the 1930s. So this hijacking of our reality happened in the early 1900s. And it's when there was some sort of, let's call it a great reset that happened. And they literally hijacked our minds.
So now the stories with Galileo, all that, just that, they're just stories.
Yep.
Folk tales. Well, I mean, they do that all the time. You look at Nikola Tesla, and they just bury all of his research and everything that he did. And they
You
don't
look
want
at the Tartarian buildings that are here that were supposedly built in the 1800s, 1700s, when we had horses and buggies. We couldn't build some of these buildings that still exist today. They're everywhere with these towers and domes on them. We couldn't build them today with our giant cranes, but we're supposed to believe that they did it with horses and buggies. It's literally, people's brains are so lazy. It's because they're fluoridated, they're vaccinated, they're poisoned, they can't think. And school is an indoctrination program. The only way to get good grades in school is memorize and regurgitate.
Yep.
Okay. If you come up with a different idea, you don't get an A.
Well,
right? You get sent to the principal's office.
John D. Rockefeller's famous quote is, "I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers." And that's what he's the one who designed the modern day school system. So they don't want to teach you the truth. And if you go as far back as the Library of Alexandria and what they have in the Vatican, they have tons and tons of information, miles of books that they don't want us to see or read. Why is that?
Absolutely. The Vatican. And have you ever seen the Vatican from an aerial view? It's a friggin' snake.
Yep. And they have
a snake. It's a giant snake.
His the Pope's what's it called? I forget where he actually
Serpent Fall or wherever
it looks like a serpent. It looks like a
serpent. Yeah, it is
head.
a serpent with teeth and everything, and it's got that satanic statue in there. It's insanity what's going on there. They have a big giant painting of Satan in their basement.
Yeah, they have tons of satanic and pedophilia type statues. Like, it's disgusting over there. But it all ties in, and that's why I'm so fascinated with this rabbit hole, because it ties into a lot of the rabbit holes that we've known and been going down for a long time. It's just something that I never really found importance in. I never really was like, oh, let me, I don't, let's find out if the globe or a flat Earth. Like it never really.
The only time I really heard about it was like Eddie Bravo on Joe
Yeah.
Rogan's podcast. You know Eddie
Well,
Bravo?
me and Eddie and I talk often.
Yeah.
Eddie,
Okay.
Eddie gets it, and Joe Rogan is a total sellout shill,
Big time.
and yeah, huge. I mean, he was the poster boy for we never went to the moon and we're never going to the moon. He was this guy.
Yep.
There's no way people went to the moon. There's no way. Then he had Neil deGrasse Tyson on. He got a huge contract for his television show. There's no way that it's a hoax. There's no way. Okay. This guy is a sellout piece of shit.
Well,
okay?
we talk
I used
about
to
it
be
all
a
the
fan.
time. We
Right?
talk about
He said
that all
he'd
the time.
lie to his mother for the money, and he did.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we talk about it all the time because me and Nick used to be MMA fighters. So Joe Rogan, we followed for a very long time, well before he was who he is now.
Yeah.
And he totally flip-flopped on all of his stance. Like he used to be the go-to spot for
But
conspiracy.
he didn't even need to do that though. He had enough money where he could get his own server at his house and make his own
right.
show.
He's controlled, Nick. He's controlled. He whether it's a threat or
Here's Howard
blackmail.
Hughes' first circumnavigation. He circumnavigated the Earth. Look at him. He went around the ball. Nope. He just went around the lake. Okay. That's his map.
And then wow,
It's a circle around the North Pole. That's it.
that's all it is. Yeah. So then what do
That's
you
all
think?
it is.
Go ahead.
I got one more for you. So the world record for southern north-south circumnavigation. Well, wait a minute. You can't do that on a flat Earth. But they gave out the Guinness Book of World Record. And here's the route. Here's the North Pole. They came down. They went all the way down here to Santiago. They went all the way out here. Then they turned around and came back and went out here, this island, out here, up, or all the way around. And that's the world record for north-south circumnavigation. This is what it looks like on a flat Earth. Okay. And they got the Guinness Book for World Records. When they went down here, why didn't they continue and pop up over here? The answer is obvious.
It's not a globe. So what about have you looked anything into the Norb theory? Because I was looking a little into this.
Oh, Norb's World?
Yeah. What
Norb's World. So is that what you're talking about, Norb's World, with the outer space?
basically, yeah.
So Norb has and it's very interesting that maybe NASA's not lying when they say they want to go to Mars and they want to go to outer space to Mars. We had the Apollo mission, which is the son of God, the godson. Well, the Mars mission might be going to the outer space where Mars is. So maybe we have the Apollo and Helios. We have the sun and the moon in here. Well, maybe out here, the sun is Mars and the moon is Venus. Venus has has phases like our moon does. And so maybe Mars is out here and circling around.
So you're saying,
and
like
then maybe out here is Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is a moon and Saturn is a sun.
So you're saying outside the mountain ranges of Antarctica that have us blocked.
Yeah, maybe they're outside, like in they all are in their succeeding domes outside.
So
What was that map you had before there, Dave? The one before the screen.
This one or this one?
Is that
This one.
I saw something saying that there was like an old Buddhist map that had some of those, I guess, extraterrestrial lands, if you want to call them, on the outside of Antarctica.
This one.
Oh yes, yeah, that one. It looked just like
That's I think that was a Japanese map.
Okay.
Yeah, again, we're not allowed out there. But there's a video there was in the 1950s or something, there's a Florida magazine, and this is something you cannot find a single copy of this magazine. Now with eBay and the internet, you can find a copy of anything, right? But you can't for any price find a copy of any of the Florida magazines. Well, there was a series of articles called The Iron Republic. And basically it was a story about a senator in the late 1800s, early 1900s, who I think he was out of New York. He was sick of politics. He got a ship crew and he went to Antarctica, and he found a fissure. He went through a hole and ended up lost. They came out in the ocean. They were lost for a month, and they came across this other land, maybe over here, or maybe went through here. They came across this other land, and finally a boat came out and greeted them. He's like, "Hey, where are you? Where are we?" And they're like, "You're at the Iron Republic." And he's like, "What's that?" He goes, "Well, we're land on the other side of Antarctica, about the same distance that you are, from America, on the other side." And we left the inner world in the 1600s because of the tyranny that was going on. We didn't want to, we didn't like it. And so it's a whole story about his experience there. This was written in the 1950s. He's talking about technologies, computers, and all sorts of stuff that we didn't have back then. So either he was an amazing futurist, or maybe he was telling the truth. It's called the Iron Republic. And I
What
believe
occurred
it's
to
on
me-
the app under the Antarctica button. There's a reading of it.
I'll have to check that out because I haven't heard. That's the first I'm hearing of that. And
Great story.
Antarctica is one of my favorite rabbit holes. It just fascinates
Yeah.
me that all these politicians, like John Kerry was there on the night of the 2016 election. Like, why are they going down to Antarctica of all places? What's their purpose
Yep.
down there? Why is the treaty signed? Every single country who's been at war with each other, Russia, USA, all of them signed a treaty saying that there's no independent research allowed down here? For what reason? Like, if there's probably a wealth of resources that
Yep.
countries could use, why would they sign that? Especially if they hate each other, they're warring countries.
This map in particular kind of made me think of the Hollow Earth.
So,
about
Dave,
it?
This map that you just had up, that you have up now, Dave, made me actually think of the Hollow Earth
The
theory.
problem I have with the Hollow Earth is it's just another rabbit hole to make you think you live in a heliocentric, world. NASA came up with the bullshit story about the moon ringing like a bell, but that's NASA. They're liars.
So what do you think surrounds us then? Do you think it's like, as you said earlier in that video of the guys from Arizona who shot up that rocket, and it hit almost like a wall, and you couldn't really explain what it was, but so would you say that there's a dome around us?
I think there is a dome. The first page of the Bible in Genesis says God separated the waters from the waters and made the firmament. My personal belief is, we are in this realm. There's a more dense realm below us and a more heavenly, non-physical realm above us. Check out the work of Santos Bonacci. He talks about the 7 layers and these other. He talks about 7 layers of reality, and he has lots of ancient information way above where I've looked into. Santos Bonacci. He'll blow your mind.
So if that's the case, why hasn't anybody even taken a GoPro, even though it's a fisheye lens, and sent it up to actually hit that dome?
We did. I showed you the video already, didn't I?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
showed us,
yeah.
but you couldn't hear it. It just looked like,
Yeah, well, I don't have sound. I can't run sound on here.
no,
But
yeah, yeah.
it just look up go fast rocket hits dome. There's a bunch of videos.
And what is it?
Go
Just
fast rocket hits dome.
It just deflects into a different direction when it hits it.
No, it's going, and it goes, it's spinning really fast, and it goes kerplunk. It's just like the sound of a smooth stone being dropped into a pond.
Uh-huh.
Okay. It makes like a kerplunk noise, and then it stops spinning. Now, some people say there's some crazy yo-yo de-spin, but the deceleration and the stop of spinning and the sound and the weird way it started floating all of a sudden
Yeah.
was too weird.
Well, why wouldn't it explode if it hit that? Like, why wouldn't the rocket?
Well, if it hit water, that would be pretty hard. You hit water at a high speed, it hurts.
Yeah.
I don't think it was water. I think it was just a thicker medium. Maybe it was plasma. Don't know. I don't know because I can't get up that high. But you know, think about this. We're only taught about secondary water, which is evaporation, condensation, and precipitation, and that's not the main water on our world. The main water on our world is called primary water, and primary water is deep below the land. Gaddafi found it, and he created the great man-made river system, and he was pumping water all over Africa before they took him out. But
Yep.
I believe that's connected to the waters above. It's unlimited, infinite, pristine water, right? And they don't want us to know about it. Like in California, you're not allowed to dig a well deeper than 300 feet because if you do, you'll hit primary water, and then they won't be able to control you. They control us with water, food, electricity, fuel, and that's basically it. You know, and
And
money.
that's why they're pushing climate control, because they want to tax us on our air. They want to control us through.
Right.
If they can control our water and our air, they control every single human being in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why they're trying to tax it.
So
Like
when we have, you know, if you've ever flown through a big cumulus cloud, it's no big deal. It's like the plane barely gets wet. It gets damp, but it's not like you're flying through millions of tons of water. If you've been in a hurricane or, you know, a heavy downpour, there's rivers of water coming out of the sky. Where is that water coming from? Where are those trillions of pounds of water coming from? Were they floating in the cloud? I don't think so. But when does water come? When do we get heavy rain? When we have really low pressure. The lower the pressure, the more rain we get. A hurricane, super low pressure. Rivers of water. I don't know if you've ever been in a hurricane, but there's literally rivers of water coming out of the sky, and the wind is sorting it out. I think the low pressure is allowing the water come in from that other realm above us. And so the low pressure lets the water in.
well, you could also tie that into harp and things like that. Like I think
Oh yeah, they're fucking with
yeah,
fucking with all that stuff. I
yeah,
know about that, but again, you know, whether the hurricane's man-made or not, it's low pressure that lets the
yes,
water in. Whether they're manipulating that low pressure or not, that's a whole nother story. I'm with you.
So that also ties into how you feel about gravity, right? One of your other videos, it
Well,
was just what you drop is heavier than air or it's lighter than air.
well, gravity is also it's provable that there is an electric force. The only true forces are electricity and magnetism.
hmm
The Earth has a measurable negative electric charge, which it just attracts things very lightly. It's a very weak force, just like gravity. But on this plate with the Van de Graaff generator, we gave it an electric charge a little stronger than the Earth, and wood chips and iron chips and human hairs will go up, right? They go up because we're overwhelming what? Gravity or the negative charge of the Earth? It's very simple.
Well, I'm a big believer in energy being all around us, and electricity is
Everywhere. It
it's
actually
everywhere.
it's not even a belief. It's measurable.
Yeah,
A meter off the ground is 100 volts. At 2 meters off the ground is 200 volts, and it keeps going up from there. 100 volts a meter.
that's insane. I never seen that where the hair
Yeah,
and the wood
look
chips
that
go up
up.
like that. I've never
It's
seen it.
amazing, and there's free energy everywhere. We can suck energy out of the ether. That's what all of these old Tatarian buildings, all of these old things, they all had towers and domes. This was energy harvesting, right? These
Just like
old
the pyramids.
churches, you know, yeah, well, that too, but even old churches and stuff, there it's all was energy technology. There was a worldwide civilization, and that's when everybody knew the Earth was flat and there was no division. But then something happened. Maybe it was a mud flood, and there was a depopulation of the world, and then some evil fuckers have taken over and hijacked our world from us. So we're here, and I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. Maybe we're all in this. I don't want to call it a video game, but we're all here in this amusement park. And let's say, you know, we're old souls. We've done this before. Why would you want to just go into a place that's kind of boring? Everyone gets along. Let's go and have a challenge.
Shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you went into a video game, a shoot 'em up video game, and nobody shot at you, would you keep playing the game?
No, no, you'd stop immediately. It'd be
Right.
boring. So then with so with all the things that NASA tells us being a lie, which I can 100% get behind, what makes you just the fact that the flight plan paths show that it's flat, or what makes you think it's flat like a disc? Like how what will like is there
It's not a disc. Again, it's not a disc. We can see too far. So, like right here, do you see a boat? Is there any boat out here?
no
No boat. No boat. But I'm zooming in. Look, what's that?
a
It's a
boat?
boat. Now, did I pull it up over a curve or did I just zoom in on it?
You zoomed in on it.
I zoomed in on it. So look, you can see the whole hull. Now I'm going to zoom out just like the boat. It's going away from me and it's going to disappear from the bottom up. Look, the hull's almost gone. It's up to the window. The whole thing's gone. And somebody on the beach would go, well, it went over the curve. It's so far out, it went over the curve. Well, it should have gone out over the curve if you can prove the distance, but that's not what happened. It's angular size. So if I walked around this corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were standing right here and you had a telescope, could you zoom in and see me again?
No.
No.
No, because you zoom in on the wall. I mean,
The
if I
extra vision.
turn that over, if I went over that hallway, you couldn't zoom in because this hump is blocking your view of me. So
You need-
I don't care if you had the Hubble telescope, which is fake. You couldn't zoom in on me. But somehow I was able to zoom in on that boat after it disappears, which proves it's an optical thing, not a physical thing. The horizon is an optical thing.
I mean, I heard you saying that there's some military lasers that point targets 100 miles away.
Yeah, 100 miles. There should be 6,000 feet of curvature, 6,600 to be exact, but 100 miles away.
6'6" coincidence.
So this is my sun fade out video. I got this 7 times. I watched the sun. It went in 5 minutes time. It went from there to there. Now, if the Earth was spinning, it should just go all the way. It should just go the same speed until it's gone. But it sat there, and this is sped way up. It sat there for 10 minutes. It wouldn't go below this line. It sat there for 10 minutes, and then this is a super clear day, and then all of a sudden, it just disappeared into the thickness. Right? Here it is again. It just disappeared because its light couldn't push through the soup. Right? It's still there. It's still light, but it's moving away. And the sky is getting less fluoresced. Right? The sky it lights up from the electricity from the sun. So the sun's over here. It's daylight over here. And it's fluorescing the sky. So this is daylight. Sunlight is when you see the sun. Daylight is the sky. And then over here, it's dark. It's nighttime. It's pitch black down here. It's day next to night. Day next to night. Right there. This is from like about 100,000 feet.
Does the sun give the moon its light? That why is the moon so bright on certain nights? And
yes, so the full moon on a clear night will light up the sky. You know, it lights up everything. You can read by it, but the sun is supposedly reflecting off of that dusty, dirty ball and reflecting all the way back to Earth. Right? This is daylight. This dusty, dirty ball looks this bright from Earth. Right? The inverse square law of light says that every time you double the distance of something, it gets 1/4 the brightness. Or every time you half the distance of something, it gets 4 times brighter. So I'm here on Earth. I'm away from all the city lights. I could drive down the road by the moonlight. It's bright enough. I could read the newspaper, right? Not that you should ever read a newspaper.
No, you shouldn't.
But
I agree.
It's so this is probably like 15, 20 lumens, but let's just say it's 1 lumen, just to give it every benefit of the doubt. Right? If I go halfway to the moon, it's 4 lumens. If I cut that remaining distance in half, it's 16 lumens. That it's 64 lumens. Keep going, half and half and half. When I get to 100 miles from the moon, it's something like 10 million lumens. Okay? 10 million lumens would melt your eyeballs.
Definitely.
This is 10 million lumens, or this guy's a fucking liar.
Yeah, wow. He definitely is a liar, because that looks just like the desert.
And this isn't a big shot, but there's spotted clouds. It only lights up the ones right near it. All the other ones are dark. If the moon was 238,000 miles away, it would light up all the clouds.
So what do you think the moon is then?
Cheese.
Che- Cheese that has his own source of light, because
Yeah,
it was from the
the
sun.
moon is its own light. It's a different kind of light. If you magnify moonlight, it gets colder. That's crazy, right? Don't
Why
ask
is
me
that?
how.
Oh, okay. I won't
I
do
said,
that.
don't ask me how.
You beat me to it. You
Too
beat me to it. So if it would be impossible to land on the moon, then they wouldn't be able to see anything. They wouldn't be able to take that photo if it
The moon is not a physical place. Next time, right now we're going into a new moon. This is when I get all the emails on the app like, your app's not working. There's no moon. I'm just like, just wait a couple days, dude. There's no moon in the sky.
I mean, if you study moon patterns, we were taught there's no moon in the sky. So anyway, he says that, they're an idiot.
So when there's no moon, by the way, when the moon goes to new,
Mm-hmm.
nobody has ever seen it from an airplane, from an infrared telescope during a solar eclipse. No one has ever seen it in less than 42 hours, I think, almost 2 full days. Okay. The earth shine when there's a new moon. From the moon's point of view, you have a full earth, full of sun.
Mm-hmm.
It should reflect back like the moon does to us and light up the moon so you can see it, but it doesn't. No one has ever seen it. So I don't think, if you remember my eclipse video,
Mm-hmm.
did I show the eclipse video here?
Yeah,
I've been in so many interviews.
I know.
When there's a new moon, the moon has nothing to project. There's no light on the moon. Therefore, there's nothing to project into our reality. So there's no moon there.
So it just shuts off, or just disappears.
Well, I think it shuts off. Yeah. But why do they call it a new moon? Maybe it's a new moon. Maybe it's not every month and how women's reproductive cycles kind of sync up with the moon. That's where my whole thing with the moon, there's a lot of correlation with births and moon cycles. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with delivering souls to our avatar meat suits here.
Well, why?
I don't know.
Why does the moon have such an impact on the tides and the oceans and the
It
waters?
doesn't. That's a lie. There's no correlation to the moon. If the moon if the full moon, made a tide big, why doesn't a new moon make the tide big? Because the moon's still there. It's just not lit up. What difference does it make? If you go on my channel and look up the tides playlist, there's tidal nodes all over the earth in different places. The tides are crazy. The last thing they're tied to is the moon. Now, the moon and the sun do there is some correlation for some super high tides, but I think it has to do with with the earth being like a giant battery and the sun and the moon being the anode and cathode of that battery. So they circle over the earth, sending energy here. The salt water carries the current. That's why the salt water is the only thing that has tides. And the land is the salt bridge of the battery. There's a channel called LC King. LC King. Go watch some of his Earth galvanic battery videos.
I'll definitely
You
check
think
that
you're
out.
thinking hard now. Wait till you see those.
Yeah, you're about to mind fuck me even further because
Yeah.
this is so much. It's really wild to me because from our perspective, from our seat, we've been going, like I said, we've been going down rabbit holes for a very long time. So for me, it's not hard to believe that this is very real and there's a lot of validity and a lot of there you make a lot of
Not
really,
about believing, it's about knowing.
well, yeah, it's very easy to see this and see it being real. Now, for the average person, I call them the normies, they just refuse to take any new information in and accept it. And I know I've heard you say you never go and talk to your friends about flat Earth because they'll think that you're crazy, which my friends already think that I'm crazy.
I talk to everybody about it. There's
So
nobody I don't talk to about it.
What's the best way to approach somebody who is considered a who doesn't even believe that the China virus is nonsense or doesn't believe that the election was rigged. They don't believe any of that nonsense. They just think that the media is telling us the truth, and they're just asleep at the wheel. How do you approach those people, or you just completely ignore them to begin with?
Well, there's some people that will never wake up, and it's not your job to wake them up. But what I do is, well, for me, I'm lucky because I'm so out there. I go out anywhere, I don't say anything, and people always bring it up. And once they bring it up, that's when you have your opening, right? You can't give a kid advice unless they ask for advice, right? So you really can't give anybody anything until they ask. So for me, they'll make a joke or something, and then I'll throw it back at them. They throw me a question, and I just throw the question right back at them in a different form. So what I do is I tell people, get the app, watch the daily video every day. There's short ones during the week. During the week, like you find a good short one, send it to your buddy. Go, hey, what do you think of this? Right? And that's it. Don't say anything else, because then it plants a seed and they can't get rid of it. You're literally going to infect them with what I call the flat earth fungus. Okay. Once it's in, you can't get rid of it unless you get a lobotomy.
Yeah, for real. It's no, because that's where I'm at right now. That's literally where I'm at. Like, before going into this, I was always like, all right, it's most likely a globe. I don't believe what NASA's telling me, but based on the video evidence of, and I never even thought about a camera lens being curved. I knew.
Yeah, go in the app and click the "What about NASA" button. All right, bring some food and water. Watch those videos, and what the app does, you'll watch a video, like you say, hey Dave, send me something on the fake moon landing. I'd send it to you, and then the YouTube would autoplay a propaganda piece right after it, and just feed you all propaganda, and they'd suggest it. But you go on the app, you play the video, the next video will be one of my videos, and the next one will be one of my videos, right? Not in the mind, all of us together, but I make it so the app only feeds you the good stuff, and then make up your own mind. Okay, I'm just going to show you, look, this is how they're faking it. And then you can go, oh, I could see that now. Because sometimes you just don't see. People just like to believe, because belief is easy. It takes zero effort, zero thought.
Yeah. Spoon-fed information.
Zero risk.
And we deal with that on a regular basis, and we get called crazy. We're lunatic conspiracy theorists. Even Nick, our resident normie, is like, yo, you guys are nuts. And
yeah, you know what? I've been screaming about frigging chemtrails for fucking decades, and everyone said I was crazy. Now they admit it. Now fucking Harvard admits that they're spraying the fucking skies.
Yep.
And people are like, well, people just short circuit. They don't care, right? I was screaming about the PCR test being bullshit and false positives getting banned on Facebook and fucking strikes on YouTube. And now the CDC came out going, the PCR test is bullshit.
Same thing with HCQ. They were saying it's nonsense, and now they're coming out and saying, oh, it's going to save tons and tons of lives using this medication. Like they do it all the time, and people have such short-term memories. They have pea brains, I say. They forget information that they saw with their own eyes literally a month prior, a week prior, and it's just totally out of sight, out of mind, and it's only what's right in front of them, what the media is talking about at that very moment. They can't look at the puzzle from a 50,000 foot view. They can only look at it in such a single monolithic view that's right in front of them, and it's very unfortunate, because I think that's the biggest problem with human beings today is they cannot take in new information and accept it.
It's really difficult for people to admit that they were deceived. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Especially when that deception is the foundation of your world. But the truth is, if you live on a spinning ball, you have no foundation. You're lost in space, spinning out of control. And I'm giving you the opportunity to step down on the foundation of the universe, the earth, and put yourself in the place where you have your divine power and take it back. It's really easy. It's unbelievable. The stuff that I've been able to do since I've become a flat earther, it's amazing. I stand up to authority, like the police. I would never have had the guts to do this. I was shopping without a mask in Costco. They called the friggin' police on me. The police were being assholes. They asked me for my ID. I refused to give it to them. And they're like, no, you have to give it to me. And I'm like, no, I don't. You have to give me your ID. And I made them give me their ID.
People don't know their rights. You're 100% right in doing what you did.
Yeah.
and people don't want to stand up. That's another thing with the masks. They do that on
I am
purpose.
banned from Costco and from being on their property forever, but that's fine.
I'm banned from a couple stores by me as well because I won't
Yeah.
wear a mask.
How do they ban you if you never give them your ID?
My photo
Because I made
is-
a video and it went viral and it was on my channel called
Okay.
David Weiss, and they found it. They got YouTube to remove it, and then they sent
Oh,
me
they're-
a certified
they're-
letter
So you
with
can't
a
go there?
return check for my membership.
Get the fuck
Well-
out of here, really?
at least they returned your money. Like at least they didn't.
Well, of course they would have to, otherwise they'd be afraid I'd sue them.
I know it's such an overreach of power that these companies are doing, all behind the
Right.
guise of fear, because it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
Nick,
so
gotta wrap it up. What do you think? Final
Well,
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing. Well, I'm gonna jump in here
Okay.
because I know one of the things, Dave, you mentioned earlier that you wanted to tie in towards the end was why the lie.
I kind of told you the lie is it's about control. It's about making you think that you live in a godless or distant god universe where asteroid could take you out, where we're running out of dinosaur juice for our cars, where nuclear bombs are going to kill you, where you're just living in fear, insignificant, you're just a random accident, versus the reality of the world is that we're at the center of creation, and once you see the creation, you can no longer deny the existence of a creator. I'll leave it there. There's a creator, and we are in a divine spot, and nobody has dominion over us. So you take back your power, you unplug from the matrix. That's an analogy, but it's not far off from the friggin' movie, where we stop feeding them our power, and they don't want us to know that because they need to control our minds. And people that wake up to the flat earth literally wake up to everything else. It's amazing. I woke people up to 9/11, the Boston event, the Connecticut event, and they go right back to sleep. They go right back to work. Nothing friggin' changes. Then you wake them up to flat earth. They're like, holy crap, the Pulse Club, the fucking Vegas, they go into everything, and they're
Yeah.
like, wow.
Well, that's kind of how it worked for us. Just the opposite, 9/11. Once you lied to me once, that's it. Like, I'm gonna start digging and going forward,
Yeah.
and figuring out what else you lied to me about. And flat Earth is honestly probably the last rabbit hole that I haven't gone down.
Well, Dave, with all the stuff going on in this world, why are you talking about flat Earth? And it's because if we get our freedom back, how long can we keep it if we're lost in space, spinning out of control, don't know who we are? And the answer is not friggin' long. So this is the most important topic of our time.
That was actually the answer to my next question, because I remember you guys reached out to us and you were going to explain how flat Earth directly affects our civil liberties, and you just answered it right there. And I never thought of it that way. It's really wild because you have so many rabbit holes to go down, and so many things that we've been told that were flat out lies, like bold-face lies. And anybody to sit here and believe all of those lies and then not question what we were told about the earth, like you said, you're still fast asleep at the wheel. You have to question everything.
Yep.
So Dave, I really appreciate you, man. I know you got to head out. Thanks for coming on. We definitely would love to do it again.
There's so many. I
Right, we'll
took
talk
so many
again.
notes.
Huh?
I took so many notes I'm going to look into.
How you feeling now, Nick?
Get the app and just start clicking away. You'll find all the information. Otherwise, you'll.
How can we
spend
find your
way
app?
so
Let
much-
the listeners know how they can find your app too.
Just search the Google Play Store or Apple Store for Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. If you just put in Flat Earth Clock, it'll come up. But on Android, there's a free version made by a bunch of globe heads that are trying to control your mind. If you get that, which is fine, you can, but don't send me a note telling me my app sucks and it has nothing in it, because it's not my app.
I'll link it down
So-
below in the description for everybody.
It's by Blue Water Bay. If you're watching on a computer, just point your phone at this QR code and it'll pop right up on your screen. And it's $2.99. There is a subscription in there that you do not have to subscribe to. It's 99 cents a month or $11 for the year. If you want to support me, feel free. But if not, it only has one pop-up. It can exit out within a split second and it's gone. No ads, no nothing else. Pop up, goes away and you still get everything. So only subscribe if you absolutely would like to support me so I can keep doing this.
And where can everybody find your podcast and your show?
My YouTube, my podcast, Facebook page, and website by the same name, The Flat Earth Podcast. And
Awesome.
my YouTube channel is the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. It's just DITRH. I have lots of short videos there that will they're fun, good ones to send to family and friends that like, hey, what do you think about this?
I'm shocked YouTube still allows you to operate. I really am.
Yeah, me too.
They remove so many people. We joke about it all the time. Oh, this is the episode that we're getting removed.
Well, I think it would cause a bigger problem if they remove me, because like, why are you removing Flat Earth videos?
Oh, yeah, validation.
That's what they're doing with us in our world. They're removing us from Twitter. And
I know. I mean, yeah,
it's rough. But Dave, we really appreciate your time, man. It was a lot of fun. It was a pleasure to meet you and chop it up about Flat Earth, because this is something that
it was really interesting.
We talk about a lot of rabbit holes, and this is not one that I've personally gone down, and I really appreciate your knowledge and everything that you were able to show us, because this is something that is really new to me, which is not normal for a rabbit hole, and we look forward to doing it again. So thanks again, Dave.
All right, man. Thanks. See ya.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank
guys,
you so much, Dave.
We
Thank you,
really
Dave.
appreciate everybody listening. Please like, subscribe, share all of our content. It really helps us out. Go to our email list and our website, WPRUSA.com, and shout out to our video sponsor of the day, brickandmirrorbeauty.com. Put in WPRUSA for 10% off. And until next time, guys, where we go one, we go all.
You can't handle the truth.